Welcome everyone to the Females in Motorsport podcast. Today we have with us someone extremely special. I can't even believe that you're sitting right in front of me right now. The Principal Strategy Engineer, Hannah Schmitz at Oracle Red Bull Racing. How are you, Hannah? Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And yeah, I'm doing well. We just arrived in yesterday, so a little bit jet but
are you guys excited for the weekend?
So excited. Love Austin. Love the whole kind of atmosphere at this track. And also it's a really great track for racing as strategy. So yeah, really excited. Yeah, obviously sprint weekend, so it's going to be pretty full on.
Yeah. Do you like the sprint weekend?
I think it's interesting to have like the different formats and kind of give it a go. I think I still love the classic racing format, and that's the ones kind of we all know and love. But yeah, I have like the sprint events have grown on me this year, I think.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think in the beginning it was all like, do we really need this? But to me, I'm like, we get to see more racing. I'm fine with that. I'm not going to complain. So I want to start with something that I found out very recently about you. That you joined Red Bull as a student intern, and you have quite literally made your way up to Principal Strategy Engineer now. So how did you ever think you would be here one day?
No, so you're right. It's been a bit of a journey, and I've spent it all at Red Bull, which I think is quite a unique thing. So I started on a student placement, but I had actually finished my degree. I just unfortunately graduated a year when it was in the middle of the economic crisis. There was a freeze on headcount everywhere. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to do an internship in Formula One, which has always been the dream, but which I didn't think would ever kind of happen. Then I fortunately got that placement, and then someone left, so I got a full-time job. And then it just all went from there. I was working in vehicle dynamics at first. I did mechanical engineering. That was kind of the more expected path. And then it was when I was at Red Bull that I learned more and more about race strategy, and I just really wanted to be connected with the racing and really a part of that. And that's why I ended up going down that route. And got the job and then trained up through strategy. And so 14 years that I've been at Red Bull now.
That is incredible. And you have obviously seen the ups, the lows, everything. And most recently, of course, you guys just wrapped up your third driver's title and your second constructor's title. How have you guys just been managed? How have you guys managed to just balance out the highs and the lows, especially now that you're on a winning streak? When you look back, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, so I think mainly, to be honest, it has been highs. Obviously, we also had Sebastian's driver championships as well before that. That was incredible. And I think for a strategist, even when you're not the team that's always winning, it's still really interesting. We've still always had the opportunity each season to win races, and sometimes being the underdog is still quite an exciting and different way of thinking as a strategist. So the job is always exciting, and you've always got your own kind of personal motivation, and then that whole team spirit where you're working together to do the best you can. So yeah, I mean, this year's obviously been incredible, kind of unbelievable to be breaking all these records. I think we're all really proud and happy with that. But I've also enjoyed all the years, all the seasons that I've worked here.
Yeah. Now I want to talk about Brazil 2019. I think that was an iconic moment for a lot of women in motorsport, seeing somebody like you on the podium. And I don't think a lot of people get to see that very often. We as females in motorsport always say, see it, be it, because seeing something really helps you even envision that you could be there one day. So that was an incredible strategy masterclass from you, that specific race. How did it feel just standing over there holding the Interlagos trophy?
Yeah, it felt absolutely incredible. I think when you watch the podium, you think it's quite a quick ceremony, but actually standing there, trying to take in that you're up there because of a decision you made. Obviously, we only win races as a team with everybody's parts coming together, but that was quite an intense decision to pit and give up the lead under the safety car. So yeah, I felt like, yes, I've made that decision. It paid off. And then to go and receive the trophy, it's obviously an incredible honor. And yeah, it was an incredible feeling. Yeah. I think for me personally as well, I just come back to work after having my first child. And so it felt like, yeah, you're proving that you can still be here, you can still do this. They could obviously watch it on TV, a bit young to take it in at that stage. But yeah, I think, as you say, the See It, Be It movement is really, I think, taking more and more shape now, and people are kind of proud to show what they do and to help encourage women, young girls to stay in STEM, and, you know, so many exciting careers for them. So I'm really happy to kind of help represent women. There's so many incredible women across motorsport now, but really happy to kind of help represent that.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so important for women in the workplace, especially after you're coming back after having a child, because of course you work in an incredible team and there's so much support there. And for a lot of women, unfortunately, that's just not the case. So I think even for you to say that and, you know, how much that meant to you, I think that's amazing. That's amazing. Even with, let's say, you know, when you're in those high pressure moments, like you were talking about with the safety car, how do you manage to just stay so calm and centered? I've heard about a method that you use, but I want to let you talk about this because I've heard it's a legit technique. But like, I could not even imagine this, you know, making that decision. I would literally just be so anxious the entire time. How do you just keep your center?
So I think it's all about having confidence and belief in what you're doing, and that you are the best person to make those decisions. That's your job. So I think really fundamentally it comes down to that, and knowing that you're in the right place and you feel confident and happy in your role. But also, it's quite rare actually for it to be that situation where it's such a great area. Usually you know what you're going to do in a safety car before it comes out. And that particular time we had been talking about it and no one had kind of committed either way. But then I had to make the call and say, right, well, I think we should pit. And I'm like, okay, so let's see.
Now we'll see. Wait for like a couple of hours. Let's keep it face off.
And yeah, I think that's the really exciting thing about strategy. It's never a right and wrong answer. But as you say, I think the other role of a strategist is to stay calm when lots of people everyone's very passionate and excited. Everybody wants to win the race. Everyone has different opinions and data, all of that coming in. You have to stay calm and make the right decision. Yeah. And so for me, a technique which I got taught quite early on when I first started out in strategy is that if you place your palms downward, it helps you communicate more clearly and succinctly. Almost lowers your voice as well when you do that. When you're talking like this, a bit more chatty, friendly, and when you go into this mode, you're calmer and you kind of have almost more authority when you speak.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to try this. This is really cool. Do you think that is basically one of the most important traits as a strategist, just to be able to keep your calm and just, you know, be able to make those decisions? Because I think for a lot of people, you know, you can of course excel in strategy, but just balancing like that out with the mental side of things.
Exactly. I think it's not all just about technical ability. There's lots of people that are probably much cleverer than me, much better at math and so forth. But it's also about having the side where you're good at communicating, you're open to listening to people's ideas, but you're also not too swayed by what other people are saying when you don't need to be.
Yeah.
And it's about bringing all that together so that you can make decisions together. Everyone feel like they're on board with what you're doing, and make sure you're making the right recommendations. So I think communication and staying calm, having a level head are really important. Like people are getting angry at you, don't rise to it.
Yeah, fair. That's fair. That's a really good tip actually. Just out of curiosity, what is the hardest variable to work against when you're strategizing for the next race, let's say?
So probably the main thing in strategy is the tires and how they're going to perform. So if they're particularly tricky, so probably Qatar was a good example of that, where things happen that you don't expect and that you can't see happening. That can be really difficult. So I think the tire behavior is always the main thing. When we have graining, again, that can really impact your strategy. And you might have graining for a little bit and then it clear up, and you might not know if it's going to clear up or not. So I think really having a good handle on the tires is important. And then it's all the unexpected events. I always think if you could see the future, then you would be definitely the best strategist. So maybe we need more like psychics and people just have that job.
Just imagine an 8-year-old, you know. Yeah. I remember, I think someone asked Max in a post-race interview, did he think about going on softs? And he was like, absolutely not. Yeah, I remember seeing that and I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Um, so, because you're in this position, obviously in the leadership position as a woman, did you ever find that, going to that role as a strategist where other people need to pay attention to you, listen to you, respect your decisions, was that ever a bit of a struggle?
I think probably. I mean, it's really difficult for me to say because obviously I've always just been a woman. So not just. I mean, I've always been a woman. It's a great thing to be. I'm not saying that. I've always been a woman, so I don't know how different my career would have been if I'd been a man. But I do think it was difficult to be one of the first women to sit on the pit wall and you have to tell people what to do and they have to trust in what you're saying and have faith and belief in you. And so I think that it probably did take a bit longer because of that, not because of anything personal, but more because of people's perceptions of how women are and whether they think they can deal with those environments. And I think that was the main thing of like concern of whether you be able to deal with the pressure and etc.
Yeah.
And I think people often feel women are maybe more emotional and I can be emotional. I'm not at all when I'm on the pit wall.
Of course. Yeah.
But I can be in other things in life. And I think actually that is a strength. And I think as more and more women get into positions of responsibility, we can show actually how good that is. And empathy is so important and a really valuable trait for a leader. And
I completely agree. I think there's so much to be said about being emotional as a strength, because I think for so many years women were always told in the workplace, behave more like a man to be taken more seriously. But I think now women are starting to, really come out of their own and be like, I'm emotional, yes, but that's strength. It's not a bad thing to be empathetic, like you said.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think I had maybe a fair bit of that at the start of my career, like being told how it should be, which is fine. And you do have to act in certain ways to get to where you want and for people to respect you. But I think it's also really important to always be true to yourself. Otherwise, it's probably not the right career for you. And it's so difficult to always feel like you're out. Like sometimes put yourself outside your comfort zones, but not always. If you're just constantly in a place where you don't feel like you fit in, you've got to be someone else, then that's also not great. So I think always like staying true to yourself, improving yourself wherever you can, but you don't need to be someone that you're not.
Yeah. And of course, having a supportive work environment helps with that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm curious though, in the past 14 years, of course, you've been at Red Bull, you've had this incredible journey, but I think especially since Brazil 2019, I think a lot of people know who you are, really look up to you. I can't even tell you how many people are females in motorsport, absolutely love everything about you. Have you noticed that as well? Like, did you ever feel like, oh, I'm more of a public figure now?
Yeah, I definitely have noticed it a bit in recent years, which for me is quite strange because I think naturally I'm quite a private person, maybe slightly introverted. So that has been strange. But because of the See It, Be It movement, then I'm happy to do it if it helps. Yeah, like inspire others and encourage others. But on a personal level, I'd rather
Yeah. It's not for everyone. I don't blame you. I actually at the event yesterday, I had someone come up to me and recognize me from the podcast, and I was like, "What? Like, are you serious? It's the first time I was ever told, like, oh, are you this person?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I actually blacked out for the next 2 minutes because it's never happened to me before. And after that, I thought about it. I was like, "Oh, I wish I was more forthcoming in that conversation," and I hope she still took away something from that. But it's a massive learning curve.
Yeah, because you feel like you've always got to maybe be presenting yourself positively and all of that.
Yeah,
if people are seeing you as a role model. So but as we've been saying, I think it's great if it helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
People, and when it's in the F1 environment, it's fine. I think I had it once when I was out with my children, and I was a bit like, oh, that's weird. I didn't expect anyone would know who I was. Right now,
the paths are waiting for you outside as we speak. Yeah, I think in sport also we're just so used to the athletes being the talent and being the celebrities that now with F1's popularity as well, which is great. But it is a bit of a change for everyone, and I'm sure it's been a big change for you too.
Yeah,
absolutely. Is there anything you wish you knew sooner about working in Formula One?
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, I don't, not particularly about Formula One. I guess one thing I wish, like my younger self knew, was just to not worry about what other people think. And I think that would have been really helpful.
Yeah.
And still sometimes do, but I think that's the main thing. Just don't worry about what other people think. Believe in yourself. Do what you.
That's really great advice. I think especially in motorsport, so many young girls and young women get a little bit too caught up with that, just because, especially as content creators, for example, there's just so much happening in that side of things that you're always constantly almost measuring yourself by likes, comments, things like that. And I think that's really great advice for other people to be like, just believe in yourself, keep doing what you're doing, and you will get there hopefully wherever you want to be.
Exactly. And I think also with social media, as you touched on, like everyone's going to have an opinion. A lot. You don't have to to all those. Not all right. So
especially on race strategy. I mean, I feel like everybody's a race strategist on Twitter. It's just so funny. I will say that during the race, I always have Twitter on the side open, but I just want to say it's just so funny the things sometimes people say. I'm like, okay, you do you.
Everyone thinks they can do a better job than strategists.
It's really funny. Okay, well, before we wrap, we have a fun rapid fire round, which is my favorite part of the podcast, where I'm going to ask you 3 questions and you just have to tell me whatever comes to your mind first.
Okay,
are you ready?
Nervous.
All right, question 1. What would you say are your 3 paddock essentials?
Okay. Obviously, normally I'm just always working now in the paddock. So probably the main one for me is a hair tie. Because on the pit wall it can be really windy and you're getting your hair stuck in your headphones. So probably that hair tie. Then I don't know. I guess always we have our laptop, our headphones, everything you need for your work. And probably also, this maybe won't sound that nice, but probably a spare t-shirt or something. Some of those races can be so hot when you're sitting on the pit wall. Like there's no air conditioning there. Like I mean, nothing compared to what everyone deals with in the garage. But I think
that's really good. I don't think anyone's ever said that before. That's really good.
Maybe not nice to talk about, but
I mean, I feel like it's fair. I think a lot of fans actually should probably do that as well, because being in like Singapore or Qatar or even Miami, it's sleeping hot.
So
I can't even imagine. Because you're right. There's no air conditioning on the pit wall. Second question is, what has been your most cherished race win personally?
So maybe Brazil, because as we talked about getting the trophy, but also Hungary last season when we came from 10th to win. I really wasn't expecting it at that rate. And we got to do some really interesting, exciting strategy, undercut people with more than one start. So I really loved that.
That was that. I remember that one. That was, again, I feel like the races, I'm guessing for you as well, that are most rewarding even to watch are the ones that are more strategic and you have to think about it in the long term, because it keeps you on the edge of your seat. You're always like, what's going to happen next? And like, oh, now we're at that 5 lap, undercut range. Like, what's going to happen next? And then finally, if you weren't a motorsport strategist, what would you be doing?
So I think I would like to be a detective and probably into my true crime.
What's your favorite true crime show?
So I listen to Crime Junkie.
Oh,
a podcast.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
And so I think I'd like to do that. I feel like using some of the same skills.
I think transferable skills.
Exactly.
I love that. I've never heard anyone say that. I love that. I feel like it's also, it's one of those things where, I mean, I'm thinking like Sherlock Holmes right now. You can obviously just be a detective in the police. Oh my God, I love this. Well, all right. Well, thank you so much, Hannah, for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure just getting to know you and hearing all about your journey. I think there's so many women who truly look up to you, and so many young girls who are now starting to feel like, okay, they got into Formula One as a fan, but they really want to work in the sport now. So just, listening to you and watching you, on the podiums and like all those things, on camera, everything. It really makes a big, big difference. So from everyone, thank you so much for even doing that. And like we were talking about, it's a bit of a learning curve for you too. So no, it's not easy, but it's amazing for all of us to see. So thank you so much. And thank you for joining me today.
No worries. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, it's an absolute honor to represent women in any way I can in motorsport.
Yeah, thanks. Amazing.